Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Elle Thomas. I'm the managing editor of AAPM Journals. That includes the Medical Physics Journal, as well as the Journal of Applied Clinical Medical Physics with editor-in-chief Michael Mills. I'm going to be walking you through the submission process for AAPM Journals. Every journal is going to have a little bit of a different submission process, but the online portal workflows should be generally the same, whether you're submitting to AAPM or another society's journals. So the flow that you're going to experience as you're going through the submission portal after you've prepared your manuscript files is you're going to be asked to upload files. There may be a declaration asking if you are reusing any figures or tables from a previous publication, or if you have published your article already as a preprint. We will also ask for your co-author information. This is the time to ensure that all of your co-author information is up to date and if anyone has moved institutes. Then we're going to ask for some keywords or classifications just so we understand a little bit more about what your paper is describing, so that way we can find the best peer reviewers for your article. We will also be asking for any funding declarations, so if you have received any grant fundings for your work, and ask you about publication options. This includes open access options. And then finally, we will be asking if you have included any data or supporting files in your manuscript and how those should be presented. So first, I'm going to go through the file uploading process. We have an online portal that you submit your article through that includes uploading your files directly in the portal. We do not require a cover letter for the Medical Physics Journal, but we do provide a text box where you can enter in any notes to the editor-in-chief that you would like conveyed. JCMP does require a cover letter, but it is quite short and it just might ask you for a couple of sentences from your abstract that you can use along with your front matter information like your title, names of your co-authors, and affiliations. As you're uploading files, please ensure that you provide your source file, your manuscript source file, in an editable format. Usually this comes in the format of a Word document or a LaTeX document. We advise not to upload just a flat PDF, as this will be difficult to review during revisions when we ask for a clean copy as well as a marked up track changes copy of your manuscript. This is also the time to load any appendix files, so you can include appendix files into your Word document. And then if you have any supporting material files, those can be uploaded separately. In your manuscript source file, we do require that all equations must be in editable format. So if you're using a LaTeX file, this means that your equations are coded in LaTeX and are not images. If you're using a Word file, this means you're using an equation editor like MathType and you're not including inline images. After you've uploaded your manuscript source file, we will advise you to upload any individual figure files. These can be included in your Word document, but we do advise that later on, should your paper be accepted, you will have to provide the individual figure files in PDF format. So we recommend uploading them at the beginning. That way our peer reviewers might be able to zoom in or look at your files a little bit more closely as they're reviewing your manuscript. The same thing happens with tables. Those will be required to be provided separately should your manuscript be submitted. I always advise doing this at the beginning. That way you're setting yourself up for success and not scrambling last minute after your article has been accepted to then pull out all of your tables and figures and provide them separately. The bottom there just shows you the text box that the Medical Physics Journal will have for the cover letter. Again, cover letters are not required for AAPM journals, but I would advise looking at your submitting journal's author guidelines to confirm whether your journal that you're submitting to will require a cover letter. The next stage of the submission process, we're going to ask you for any reuse permissions or declarations. Reuse of figures, tables, or text from a previous publication, conference proceeding, PhD abstract does need to be declared, and I always recommend that before you submit, you ensure that you have applied for the correct permission reuse from that previous publisher, and that includes if it's your own work. So what this means is usually you will have to go back to the publication from which you are taking the figure, table, or text. And they will often have an online application that you can apply for reuse permissions. This will come along with a form that you have to fill out, and we are happy to answer any questions if your intended journal for publication is the AAPM journals. You can always ask us questions about how you should complete that form. And then once you've completed that form, there may be a nominal fee if you're coming from another journal to republish a figure in an AAPM journal. This is going to be true for just about any publication. And once they've approved your application, they will usually include a required statement that you have to include in the, say, figure caption or below the cited text that you're including. Additionally, during the reuse permission, we will ask you if you have published any of your work in any type of conference proceedings, PhD theses, or any type of preprint server. If you have republished your data in a preprint server, then we recommend that you declare that and provide just a link to where your data and your manuscript has been previously hosted on preprint. Again, AAPM Journals certainly does accept expansion work from conference proceeding abstracts or PhD theses or preprint servers. We just need you to declare that, so that way when our overlap software kind of scrapes the internet looking for any type of reuse permissions, those are automatically come up, and we can confirm during your declaration statements that you have said that there was use of, say, a preprint server. The next stage we're going to go onto is the co-author information. You will be asked to ensure all of your co-authors' affiliations are up to date and enter in their information. If your co-authors include any ORCID IDs, please ensure you have those. That way we can link your final publication up with ORCID. This can also be done during the revision stage, but definitely prior to the acceptance of your article. We encourage you to have your co-author information and ORCID information as up to date as possible. We at the AAPM Journals have a cool tool that just allows you to put in all of your co-authors' email addresses separated by a comma or semicolon, and if they're already in our database, it'll just search and automatically pull up their information. For anyone who's not already in our database, you will have to re-enter that information in, but once they're in the system, it'll always pull up with their email address. So again, just make sure that if you're working with someone who's coming up already in our database, that you ensure that their affiliation is up to date. So this is just an example. I'm using Editor-in-Chief John Boone's profile. So I entered in his email address and it auto-populated all of his emails, institute address, and then don't forget to put in the country name. The next stage of the submission process is going to be any type of keywords and classifications. Every journal is going to have a little bit different flavor for what they're going to ask you and how to describe the research of your article. This may come in the form of taxonomy, like AAPM journals, or keywords where you type in your own keywords. For AAPM journals, including MedPhys and JACMP, we do require at least one written keyword. This can be anything in your description. So you can see here we've got deep learning, model observer. Down here we've got cerebral blood volume, and digital subtraction, flash, motion management. So it can be anything that you've been using to describe your work. And then we have a set list of taxonomy terms, and you will select from those taxonomy terms as well. Some journals might just have generalized corridors, so they might just say imaging, the therapy corridor, and then you would just select from their predetermined list where your article falls. For AAPM journals, both JACMP and Medical Physics use the same taxonomy list, and so this is a predetermined list that you will be asked to select from. I recommend selecting at least 3 or 4 of these. That way we just understand a little bit more. These are some of the top headers we have. I've separated them out. Black is for imaging, Blue is for imaging and therapy topics, and then purple is just for strictly therapy topics. Again, you don't have to memorize this list. This list will be auto-populated for you during submission, and you can just kind of select the general categories that you think your article falls into. That way we can find the peer reviewers that might match with your research to get you a speedy peer review. Next, you'll be asked the super fun question, where is your work being funded from? So we will ask you to link any of your grant funding and funding IDs. This includes any type of NIH grants. One question to ask your funder is, do they require any type of open access for your publication? University of California is a great example here in the US of a funder that always requires open access. And this will generally, even if you submit it as, no, I don't want open access, our publisher works with your institute, and so we will automatically switch it over to open access. So you can always use resources with your journal to find out if your open access fees are going to be covered or if you will have to pay those out of pocket. For the Medical Physics Journal, we are a hybrid journal. That means that open access is optional. That means that there is a fee if you would like to pay for open access, but it is not required. For JACMP, all articles will incur an open access fee. For Medical Physics Journal, we additionally have some further charges here for if you go over our page limits. So the page limits for research articles, the most common type of article the Medical Physics Journal publishes, is 10 pages. The max number of pages for a technical note without incurring fees is 5 pages. For review articles, it's 18 pages. And then for our articles describing data sets, that's 10 pages. So again, if you're writing a research article and you're writing it and it's under 10 pages for the final typeset version, and you have not selected open access, then there will be no fee for publishing in medical physics. The final question we're going to ask you about is any type of data or supporting files that will accompany your manuscript. For appendices, the appendix text should be included in your manuscript source file. You can just include that right after your reference list, and you can start with Appendix A, as you can see here over on the right-hand side of the screen. Individual figures and tables, just like with your main article figures and tables, should be uploaded individually. And if you have any multimedia files, such as videos, please just ensure that those are uploaded in a video format and not a stagnant image. So what are supporting file informations? They're files of interest to the reader, but not necessary to understand the methods and results of your work. So a supporting file could be a large package of scans, some software coding, if you have README files from your software coding, DICOM files, Excel files that won't be able to be displayed in the article, as well as really, really long or extended tables. Just remember, if you have any type of NIH funding, that NIH does support open data with your article, and so to check your grant funding to go back to see what type of information your funder requires your publication include for your supporting information. So one option for if your funder does require that you have open data, if you have really large packages, you can put those in a repository. Repositories are a great tool. They will come with their own DOI, and that way you can track citations of other people using your data. Some of the examples of really great repositories that the NIH recommends is Zenodo, GitHub, and Figshare. Again, your funder may require you to use like an institutional or a specific repository, so check with your grant just to see what type of repository or versioning they require for your data. At the bottom, we have an example of the question asked during the submission process of what type of data you have. No data to share. The authors are unable to share data at this time. The authors will share data upon request. So this means that a reader will have to email the corresponding author in order to gain access to the data. The data is available as supplemental files associated with the online article. So if you have just simple Excel files, or if you have really small figures or appendix text, this is what I would select. And then finally, if you have data that are openly available at a repository, we just ask that you include the repository name and URL, or if there's some type of reference number. Again, that's going to be for really large data, such as large sets of scans or DICOM files or software code. So if your data is going to be hosted along with the article, such as basic Excel spreadsheets or any type of supporting figures or tables, it will be displayed online for readers like this. So you can see here it was converted over to a PDF format. And that way it's published along with your article and is included just right after the reference list for your publication. Finally, after you've gone through all of those questions, you've gotten your co-author information, you've uploaded all of your files, you are ready to submit. I will pass it